Hey guys, it's Miss Madera again. We're going to start moving on into our next lesson when we're dividing decimals by other decimals. I know, it sounds scary, but it's actually not that bad. So, when I'm dividing a decimal by another decimal, I actually do now have to rewrite the whole problem. Whereas when it was just dividing a decimal by a whole number, I just had to float that decimal point up in the problem. But now since I have both the dividend and the divisor, the number inside and outside of the house have decimals in them, we're gonna have to rewrite the whole problem. So, can I have you guys do me a favor and circle the word divisor? That's the number doing all the work, so I'm gonna put a little note over here that the divisor is the number outside the house. And by the house, I'm talking about when we see this, where there's like 12.3 divided by 0.8. The divisor is this guy, the guy on the outside of the house. He's doing all the work. He's actually how many groups we're breaking this up into. To do this, you have to move the decimal of the divisor to the right. Let me put it to you this way. If there is a decimal in the dividend, the guy inside the house, that's okay. That can kind of stay put. It's only when there's a decimal outside of the house in the divisor, we have to rewrite the problem. We absolutely have to in order to get the correct quotient. So if there is a decimal, the way we need to move it is to the right. That's in this direction, towards the house. You're gonna swoop to the right. So you move the decimal all the way until it's a whole number. Then you're gonna move the decimal in the dividend, the same, underline same, the same number of spaces. What you do to the outside, you gotta do to the inside of the house. In order for the answer to be equivalent, whatever you move in the divisor, you're gonna move in the dividend. You may need to add zeros or annex zeros in order for your numbers to make sense. And number 5, make sure when you rewrite the problem that you have followed these steps so you don't get confused and your answer will be correct. All right, I'm gonna scoot on down. So on your notes, you'll notice on the left that there is a checklist to remind you that the only thing that's new that we're going over is rewriting the divisor and the dividend to make sure that there are no decimal places outside of the house. If there's some inside, that's okay. But we want this to look like a whole number in order for us to correctly divide. So I'm gonna jump to the checklist. Dividing decimals by decimals. Make sure you move the decimal of the divisor to the right until it is a whole number. This is the most crucial and important step. That's why it's the first step. Then if you follow along the list, it says move the decimal in the dividend, that's the number in the house, the same number of spaces. So if I went on the outside 2 spaces, guess how many spaces I'm gonna move on the inside? You guessed it, 2 spaces. Then you add zeros if necessary. We know the most mathematical way to say that is to annex a zero. And then you rewrite the problem and solve like you normally would. So let me try these first 2 with you guys. What is the quotient of 12.48 and 0.8? Now, if they ask the question this way, the first number they give you, that is the dividend, the number in the house. And that means this guy over here is the divisor, the one on the outside of the house. So I'm gonna set up the problem. At first, it's gonna look like this. 12.48 divided by 0.8. Uh-oh, there's a decimal in the divisor. We do not want that. So first thing, before I even get started, I need to move this to the right, however many spaces, to now it's a whole number. I only had to move it 1. So I moved 1 on the outside, I gotta do the same on the inside. Okay, and now I'm gonna rewrite the problem. So instead of 12.48 divided by 0.8, it's going to be 124.8 divided by just 8. Do you see where I got these numbers from? I moved the decimal now, it's just 8, and I have a standard division problem like Miss Madera taught us in the earlier lesson, and I will divide just as normal. So here we go. How many times does 8 go into 1? It does not. Subtract, bring it on down to bring it on back. 8 goes into 12 one time. That's 4. Bring it on down to bring it on back. 8 goes into 44 5 times evenly. 8 times 5 is 40. Subtract. Bring it on down to bring it on back. 6 times 8 is 48. No remainder. And do not forget to bring up that decimal point. I'm actually going to rewrite the answer over here. Your quotient is 15.6. That is the number we want. If you need to pause and make sure that your notes are exactly like Miss Madera's on your paper, please do that now. And if you're ready to move on, you can follow along with this next question before I have you work in groups. We're going to do this again. What is the quotient of 63.7 and 2.6? So I'm going to set up my problem. This is my dividend. It goes in the house. And this is my divisor. It goes outside. There's a decimal in the divisor. I need to rewrite my problem. So I want to move it so instead of 2.6, I want it to be 26. How many spaces I move on the outside, I got to do on the inside. So when I rewrite my problem, it's going to be 637.0. I actually want to keep that just in case I need to annex a 0. If I put 637, that still would be equivalent, that still would be correct. But since we're dividing with decimals and I want the option to drag down a 0, I'm going to leave it there just to remind me. And now instead of 2.6, I'm going to have 26. And then I would divide just as normal. 26 does not go into 6 evenly. Subtract. Bring it on down to bring it on back. 26 goes into 63 2 times, making it 52. Subtract. Bring it on down to bring it on back. 26 goes into 117 4 times, giving me 104. 7 minus 4 is 3. 1, 0. Oh, look at that. I did need that 0. Bring it on down to bring it on back. 26 goes into 135 times evenly. And if it didn't, and I needed to annex another 0, I absolutely could. Even though I don't see it, I could have kept going until I found my final quotient. One last step, I almost forgot. You gotta drag up that decimal point, and there is your quotient. All right, guys, make sure your notes match mine perfectly. If you have to go back and fill something in, please do so. You can start working on group work.